Well, the devil went down to Georgia looking for a Fidler, but he did not find him because he was up here in East Lansing carrying the team on his back. 10 straight wins.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
First whistle to the final drive. FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for actually making it through that cringy intro. I've wanted to make a Devil Went Down to Georgia Fidler reference all season, and what better time after Frankie Fidler fills the hoop with 18 points, 14 in the second half. We're going to talk all about that game here in the first segment. And then, we're going to go to Munn. That's right, because we're going to check out and preview number 1 Michigan State versus number 10 Michigan Friday, Saturday with our guy Jeremy Dewar of Spartans Illustrated. Before going any further, please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you're feeling about Sunday's basketball game against Illinois, because I think that this game was kind of perfect for Michigan State. More on that in a little bit, but let's just stick with Frankie Fidler. Because, with his 18 points, getting Michigan State out of jail so many times in the second half, our Spartans have now won 10 straight games for the first time since 2018, and actually right now hold the third longest active winning streak in college basketball, just behind Duke and Iowa State. So let's talk more about the Fidler right here, because it's been a slow come along for our friend from Omaha, but man, absolute coming out party in the second half. And there's, like I said, how many times did he bail Michigan State out when the game was getting just a little hairy? I mean, it always felt like Michigan State was somewhat kind of comfortably in control, but without Fidler showing up, it does not feel like that. He had that 3-pointer early on in the second half when it was just a 4-point game. He had the steal that led to the layup in the middle of the second half, but man, it really all came down in the home stretch, under 4 minutes, offensive board, quick layup to go up 7 points. It was a 5-point game for a little bit, and then, Penn State, because apparently they turn into the Splash Brothers when they visit Breslin Center today. And won when Penn State cut the lead to 3, and then will ice the game on that putback to make it 84-76. He was outstanding today. And hopefully, you know what, this is the sign of better things to come. He also had a really strong second half, too, against Northwestern. So, hey, shout out to Frankie Fidler, because, look, we know by now that the theme of every Michigan State game is, Akins, he's going to get 14, 15, 16 points. At least one other player is going to also have a really good game. And just tonight it was Frankie Fidler's night. So there you have it. The young man from Omaha. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, not the only bench player that had a strong night. Michigan State has had a strong bench all season, averaging 40 points from their bench. That is top 10 in the nation. Well, that average is going to go a little higher. They had 45 bench points. Their free throw shooting was still spectacular. 20 of 24 from the line. And guys, as Michigan State sits with a top 5 free throw percentage team in the nation, it's gotten to the point now. Let me knock on wood. Do that again. It's gotten to the point where you're almost a little shocked when the ball even hits the rim and still goes in. That's how crisp they are from the charity stripe so far this season. Like we said, Akins, now you could always count on him to be good. Those inconsistent Jaden Akins years are apparently just over with. He had 16 points, 6 rebounds, and he was just overall solid today. The kind of Jaden Akins game that we've come to expect so far this year. And of course, he had that great finish at the end of the game to put the nail in the coffin. Now, everyone else, they played fine. Cohen Carr, really strong first half, all 9 of his points in that first half. Trey, he had some nice moments in the second half. Just not offensively, but defensively too. That steal to go the other way midway through when, again, Penn State was kind of just flirting with making the game a little sweaty. But, yeah, Booker had some flashes, both good and bad. Jackson Kohler had a standard 7.6 rebounds, which I guess is underwhelming for him. But in 18 minutes, you're not going to sniff at that. So everyone else played fine. But, that's also why this game was kind of perfect, because everyone else just kind of played fine. Not that good. The kind of game that you want to see this team play before a massive game Sunday against Illinois, a team where Michigan State got still won kind of somewhat comfortably the whole night. But, oh, man, is Izzo going to have some things to pick apart in the film room on the practice floor. This is going to be an intense 3-day buildup to Illinois because, 9-game win streak. Is my team getting a little fat and sassy? Is that why they gave up 80-plus points for the first time since they faced North Carolina? Like, that was not a great defensive performance from Michigan State. They give up 49 points in the second half. And yes, 13 of that came from the free throw line, but if you don't think Izzo's not going to point to that number in the box score and say, this is why I'm going to be screaming at you for the better part of 3 hours in practice, you just don't know Tom Izzo then. This is also the first time in Big Ten play for Michigan State they've given up 30-plus points in the paint. And what was the big man's name for Penn State? Niederhauser, that's right. He did fine, 13 points, but a lot of those points in the paint did come from just driving to the hoop, blowing by the perimeter. Not a lot of help side defense that you've normally seen early on this year. So that's going to be another point of emphasis to hammer home ahead of this game Sunday. Like, just to go on, like, they had 7 second-half fouls. 7 second-half turnovers. They got Penn State in the double bonus with 7 minutes and change left, and well, the officiating was, let's actually talk about that for a second here. I won blood money tonight. I had Penn State plus 11.5, and the way I won it, it feels incredibly grimy, not just because I bet our Michigan State Spartans, but just it seemed pretty apparent that there were 3 other people with action on Penn State plus 10.5 or 11.5, whatever you got that number at, because not sure about the validity of a lot of those fouls that got Penn State in the double bonus. That was atrocious. We already got some mailbag questions from or at lockedonspartans@gmail.com wondering if that was the worst officiated game since when. I'm not sure, but hey, guys, the important thing is Michigan State won, and Izzo can still look at that and be like, you guys were too handsy on defense. I'm sure he didn't agree with it in the game, and he probably knows full well that those weren't actual fouls, but hey, we're trying to build agendas here at practice this week. And guys, you were also nearly out-rebounded for the second time this season. Now, this one we're really grasping for things to be negative about and, trying to drum up some energy at practice for. Now, Michigan State, of course, did win this rebounding battle. That was not the case, though, with about 6 minutes to go. Still, Michigan State batting on the hatches. They did win the rebounding margin here, but the only time they've lost a rebounding battle this year, guys, has been against Kansas. So, hey, you know what? If there's anyone that could look at this game, a win, a 10th straight win, and point to his team and tell them that, you guys are getting a little too big for your britches over there. You guys think you're all that, huh? Well, get ready for 72 hours of doomsday practices before we host the Illini. It's the guy that's heading our program. Just really quick about Sunday's game, too. And we're going to talk a lot more about it tomorrow with our guy, Sonny Verma of Locked On Illini. Like, that's going to be wall-to-wall coverage previewing this game. Right now, Illinois, perplexing. Like, Torvik has them as the number 4 rated team in the nation right now. Like, they look outstanding in some of these games. Like, yes, they beat the corpse of whatever Indiana is these days, and, they roll some other teams. But they also have some losses against Northwestern. They lost at home by 10 against USC. So I'm excited to get more into it with Locked On Illini tomorrow, but 20th offensive efficiency, 5th defensive efficiency, and point blank, like, obviously it's important for Michigan State to stay perfect in Big Ten play. You want to sweep all your home games, of course, yada, yada. But to hand Illinois their 3rd Big Ten loss, like, that could bode very well for the conference title chase. So, again, we're going to go way more in depth with it tomorrow with Locked On Illini. But before we cut it to a break here, I actually do have one more positive from this game. And Michigan State, they beat 2 storylines that really have been a thorn in their side for, like, recent history now. The first one is they survived the opposing star player might get put down like a dying horse. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I'm sorry. He's actually going to play in this game, and he's going to play incredibly well. Ace Baldwin had that back injury, missed the last game or 2 for Penn State. They said that he was questionable going into this one. So questionable that he played 40 minutes tonight. And wait, how many minutes are there in a college basketball game? 40. That's right. He played the entire game if it was a March Madness game. He had 20 points, 9 assists. He played outstanding because he's Ace Baldwin. And I have a back injury. Like, I'm sure you do, but seemed a little over-exaggerated. And then they also survived. Our Michigan State Spartans also survived. Now, this has been a lot of fun the last few years. Seeing like the 8th or 9th guy that you've never heard of on someone else's team just going gangbusters. I'm talking nuclear from the floor. Like DeMarco Dunn, who outside of his own family has ever heard about him? He had 18 points today. He had 4 of 7 from three-point land. He was a reason why this game was a little kind of sort of somewhat barely tight in the second half. Again, 4 of 7 from 3. You're going to have to go back to his last 8 games going into this one to see 4 3-pointers combined. And you looked like 2015 Klay Thompson out there tonight. So Michigan State, they survives the injured player that miraculously plays outstanding. And then, the guy that only 6 people on Penn State's campus have ever heard of, just having a whale of a game. So, hey, there you go. A lot of positives, but just enough negatives to take out of this one for Izzo to get the boys dialed in for Sunday. Guys, we're going to talk about hockey. That's right. We hear it. It's like, hey, you don't talk enough about hockey. Okay, well, we're going to do it right here ahead of a massive, massive weekend with our guy, Jeremy Dewar. But first, you need to talk your ears off about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is so easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. And plus, this is one of my favorite parts. When you win, you get paid instantly. You're not just waiting around for hours for your winnings. No, you're getting your winnings before it even cuts to the commercial break after the game. So whether you're betting on your favorite teams or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. He's back. It is the official hockey correspondent for your Michigan State Icy Spartans. Of course, we're talking Jeremy Dewar of Spartans Illustrated. Jeremy, few days out from Michigan State, back-to-back days against those Wolverines. Your #1 Michigan State Spartans against the Michigan Wolverines. Let's give credit where credit's due. How are we feeling right now? Have the nerves settled in? Bring us inside of the mind of one Jeremy Dewar right now.
Oh man, I'm actually I'm living the old Mark D'Antonio style, trying to keep the lion in the cage. Just let it not think about it too much. They added a little bit of spiciness by adding Horkov at winter break, so this is going to it's a big weekend coming up, and it feels like a weekend that we could really put them down bad, or I could tailspin. So I'm trying to make it to Friday, is what I'm trying to say.
Let's just get right into it. Where does Michigan State have the advantage? Of course, Michigan is a little behind the Spartans in Big Ten play right now, but they're still a respectable opponent. No question about that. They always got a strong program over there in Ann Arbor. Number 10 is where they sit in the polls, but where does Michigan State have a clear-cut advantage? Or is this just a wait and see after the first few shifts in this game start on Friday?
I mean, one thing that I feel like is odd to say comparatively is I just don't think that this Michigan team has the same firepower that they've had in the past.
Gotcha.
I can't remember the last time that I could come in and say that MSU had a scorer with more points. I mean, it's easy when you have the leading scorer nationally on your team to say that you have more than Michigan.
Helps.
But at the same time, usually Michigan would have 3 or 4 guys with more points over this top Spartan one, and they wouldn't even if the teams were equal, it just meant that Michigan scored a ton more and they were top heavy with who was putting the points in. But this year it just doesn't feel the same. And then also every series, but especially I think this series, there is a pretty big difference between Michigan starting goaltender and Trey Augustine.
Right.
Really either way they go with it, they either go with a grad transfer who came from Ferris State, or they go with a freshman that I'm really excited about, but at the same time he's nowhere near Trey Augustine at this point. So I think and goaltending is going to be huge, especially when Michigan maybe doesn't have the same firepower that they used to, that you can just kind of strangle a game out on them.
Now, I know it's not a perfect stat when it comes to highlighting goalies, but I did jot that down in my notes here, is that of the Big Ten goalies, who are the 2 that are in the basement for save percentage in the Big Ten? And it is the 2 Michigan goaltenders. So, of course, a lot more nuance than that, but how big of an advantage is that for Michigan State? Is that alone enough to think that, yes, they should escape this weekend with 6 points, both winning Friday and Saturday?
I think the key is that, honestly, it's the blue line in front of those goalies. There's just been some issues at Michigan with
Okay.
Like terrible turnovers that lead to goals and bad discipline that leads to goals. I mean, on top of, yes, there's goals that your goalie lets in that, they should have had, and I'm sure that they regret letting in. But at the same time, like from what I've seen in some games with them, it's just if you can get pressure on their D and force them into turnovers, you're going to have some really good scoring chances going the other way. And I think that's where like MSU with what the biggest advantage I think that they can do that is they roll 4 lines. So it's just whoever it is, like I think this is a big weekend. I feel like I say it every weekend, but at this point, like they're on fire. But it's a big weekend for the Shouty line. Like they were amazing in the Wisconsin series. I thought didn't put all the points up, but they just were buzzing every night. And I think if like the Shouty, Manisto, Tanner Kelly line, like this is a weekend that works for them. They just Tanner Kelly never stops running his mouth. They just annoy teams. Like this is like their weekend. And Tanner Kelly, like of course, scored the game-winning goal at LCA last year too, after a really brutal first game against Michigan. So I just feel like just get on their D, force a lot of turnovers, and their goalies are fine, but they're not a superhero back there where they can bail out bad play in front of them.
Stating the tremendously obvious here, this is going to be a chippy series, both Friday and Saturday, I would imagine. No love lost between these two teams, as literally anyone listening already knows. But is it a casual take right now, Jeremy, to say that the biggest stat going into this game isn't just the goalies, which we just talked about for Michigan, but maybe it's the power play? Because right now it's the top 2 power play units in the Big Ten, defensively at least. Michigan State is first at killing the penalty, Michigan second. However, those Wolverines, they are the top power play attack in the Big Ten so far. Is that just, the stat that is the light to the moth that is myself right now? Or is there something else going into this weekend that you want to draw more attention to?
No, I mean, I think that's a great one. Like discipline is going to be important. Like you can't, you're going to take penalties. They're going to probably, most ref crews are going to come in Friday night and try and set the tone. So they're going to probably call a couple things early Friday before it gets out of hand. So at the end of the day, like calls are coming. You just have to make sure that like if you take a call, you take one on, all right, the guy had a grade A scoring chance and I hooked him. All right, I'll go to the box. Hopefully we can survive this 2 minutes. But we can't have, for sure got to avoid the 5-minute majors, and you got to avoid like the after whistle stuff, because the after whistle stuff is coming both ways. Like every whistle is going to be, you get a chance to grab someone and have a little bit of a go. So like, but just don't take it over the line. Don't, in college hockey, they have this rule about grasping the face mask. You can't do that. So you just got to keep it in check all night. I worry more about that, honestly, Saturday than I do Friday. It sounds weird because you think the road game, you'd be, the road game though, I think you kind of can get you and the boys can kind of get together and say like, all right, it's us versus everyone. We just kind of like keep us in our cocoon and we do that. We've honestly struggled on big games at Munn because I think they come out a little extra amped, right? Like you have the home crowd. Some of these guys still remember Munn from 3 years ago when no one was there. And it kind of they can get a little overamped in a big game like this. So I worry about it Friday, but if they can get through Friday, it's just coming in even keeled Saturday and just finish the job.
This message is brought to you by Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Right now for playoff time, there's just quite simply no better time to get in on the action with Prizepicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players. And, well, if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right. I said it. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. Now, right now for me, this weekend, we're going to go over more than Lamar Jackson, 250 passing yards, and then more than 70 receiving yards for Travis Kelce. That's right. He's going to come to life in this playoffs, is what I'm thinking. And plus, with Prizepicks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get all your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Well, don't wait any longer. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. It's Prizepicks. Run your game. Now, let's pull out one of the players that you've already mentioned here. It's Isaac Howard. He's leading the nation in both goals and points, sitting at a smooth 33. What has been the most impressive part of his year? Where has he elevated the game the most, in your opinion, so far this season?
One thing that's been nice, he's been bounced around. They kind of switched some lines around on him. So one thing was getting a chemistry with who he had. So last year, he was with Carson Dorward and Daniel Russell, and they were kind of the top line by this point in the year, and we're really buzzing and everything. But at this stage, because you added Charlie Stramel to the roster, they ended up sliding Stramel in and moving Carson Dorward off that line, which kind of is a big domino effect. One, Ike worked well with both of those guys, but also Carson and Daniel have been teammates going back to junior. So it's a big change to throw Charlie Stramel into the mix there, but it's paid off huge. And I think up until I can't remember what goal it was against Penn State this weekend, Isaac Howard had a goal and an assist in 10 or 11 straight goals for the Spartans. It's just insane. The biggest thing for him, honestly, to me, compared to last year we got to this time and he came off the World Junior and he was great at World Junior and he played well, but he just wasn't getting points the last 2 months of the season. And this year it's like he's hitting his stride right now. So it's he went through a little bit of a points desert there in early December, late November. But again, the nice part was, I think last year it felt like if he wasn't getting the points, there wasn't quite the depth scoring throughout. This year, when he's gone without points, the entire roster is still putting points in. Obviously, they're up to number 1 in the country. So,
right.
I don't know if it's anything. Maybe an extra year in the program, and doesn't have to do the World Junior this year. And I think honestly, he looks like a guy who fits the narrative that they said about him in the summer, which was that he turned down a deal to go to the NHL because he wanted to come back and accomplish something. And he looks like a guy like a Izzo guy that tells you about he's realizing that these are the last 3 months that I'm here. So I either get it going now or this is what my legacy is. Right. So, he definitely has that appearance of a guy that's this is the last little bit of college hockey and I'm going to just do as much as I can in it.
Let's go Spartan Dogs. Let's go in the background. That's what I'm talking about. Who deserves more love? Obviously, we just talked about a guy that's lighting up the box score. You just mentioned that goal assist streak that he had for a little bit here. Is there anyone that, not necessarily in the box score all the time, but is just doing enough of the grimy, dirty work that you just want to shed some light on right now?
Yeah, I think, thinking about it, the forwards get their love all the time, especially Howard.
Of course.
You got Trey Augustine. So I'd probably give a shout out to a defenseman Patrick Geary. To me, has looked amazing this year. Him and Max Strabic have been great. Max struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season with some bad turnovers and some poor play, but Patrick bailed him out a lot, and now that pair has become an excellent top down pair, and they're actually drafted the same NHL team, so it's kind of funny to think that they could just continue this on. But yeah, Pat, obviously had the game-winning goal against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament championship last year, but I think he's just been quietly going about his business and been excellent this year, and I think they probably will put him out against Michigan's top line as much as possible this weekend. But just definitely one that I wouldn't be shocked to hear he is possibly leaving this summer. And it's again, I don't think that the casual fan would think that. He's just a sophomore. He only got drafted recently, but he's been so excellent. I could see Buffalo wanting to be just get him in the AHL, get him playing 60 games because he's close to ready. And I don't think I could have said that preseason. I thought he had much more to do, and he's done a ton already.
So to bring it back to the series, again, number 1 Spartans, number 10 Wolverines. And I know every fan thinks differently. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, yada, yada. Jeremy, walk us through between your ears right now. Are you only satisfied with 6 points this weekend? Or can you talk yourself into, hey, you know what? We got away with 4 points, overtime loss, game 1, home win, game 2. What is going to define success for this weekend here, Jeremy?
Man, I want to get the majority of points for sure, right? I want to get 4. If you lose a game, you lose it in a shootout or an overtime, whatever. It happens. But I think for me, It's also just, I would love to see, two of the games that they've dropped points in, the game at Wrigley and the game at Penn State. They gave up goals in the last couple minutes to even force overtime. Like, they had those games. Those are points on the table that you just couldn't close a game out. Granted, like, I will say, I want to be careful to say that's not saying that they like made mistakes. At the same time, this entire conference is loaded with hockey teams. Like, you're not going to run through this conference. But yeah, I think four would be nice because it's just right now with your 1 point up on Minnesota. You have a weekend with Minnesota next weekend that you can take care of. Every point you get takes it away from them, but at the same time, you don't want to be dropping too many points right now. So, and I don't think that this Michigan team is at the level that they were at last year. So if you can at least get the 4 out of 6, I'll be happy. But let's be honest, I never want to see Michigan succeed in anything. So I want 6, but I'm willing to accept that I won't. I don't want to see fans freaking out if it's 4 out of 6 online. Like, that's a good weekend, but we want 6. Like, this team is we're better. We can do it, but just got to put it together in Ann Arbor on Friday.
Lord knows that we'll take 7 or 8. That's what we want. But, that's a good way to level set it here. If it's 4, I'd still a lot of season left. That's a squirrely team and a heated rivalry. Things happen all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes across most sports against those guys. But, Jeremy, anything you want to plug here before we let you go and just survive the rest of the week before, of course, the heart-stopping action starts on Friday and Saturday? Anything you want to leave us with here?
Yeah, no, I'll have a series preview up at Spartans Illustrated by Friday. And, other than that, just keep the line in the cage. It's Penn State basketball.
I love that.
Just go 1-0 this week on Wednesday, and then we'll see. I'm jealous of you Lions fans. You guys get to be distracted. Actually,
don't be.
I wish I had it. I wish I had it, but.
We've prayed for this. I thought that being in this scenario was unimaginable in my youth of having the 1 seed, the bye, but I could feel the tightness in my chest right now just talking about it. And this next week, or God forbid 2 weeks, is going to take 8 years off my life. I'm just not built for it, because I know too, this might never ever happen again. This window might never be as open as it is right now, and I could start crying right now if I keep talking about it any further. So just 2 grown adults with children that are going to have a great weekend of mental health positivity here.
I think we're gonna be buying parliaments like we work in a restaurant right here. So
indoor cigarettes are making a comeback. I've never smoked one in my entire life, but I will go through 3 packs during this Lions game this Saturday. It's gonna be fantastic,
buddy. It's gonna be a British darts show over here between me and you. So
someone please hold me. Jeremy, you're the best. Really appreciate all your time, your insight, all the viewers and listeners. You already know we're going to be back. It's Locked On Spartans. We do this 5 days a week, and if I suffer a heart attack Saturday night, these shows could be limited, so enjoy them while you can. All right, guys. Until then, love you all. Go Green.